The interview that changed everything. Rachel Monroe checked her reflection one final time in the elevator mirror, smoothing down the navy blazer she had borrowed from Grace. At 24 years old, with a 10-month-old baby at home and bills piling up faster than she could count, this interview at Harrison Technologies felt like her last shot at stability. The tech company was known for its innovative work culture and generous benefits, exactly what a single mother needed. The elevator dinged, opening to reveal a sleek office space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking San Francisco Bay. Rachel stepped out, her heels clicking against the polished concrete floors. Everything about this place screamed success, from the modern furniture to the employees chatting excitedly about their latest projects. Rachel Monroe? A friendly woman with short auburn hair approached, extending her hand. I'm Jennifer Cole, HR manager. Welcome to Harrison Technologies. Thank you for having me, Rachel replied, grateful. Her voice sounded steadier than she felt. A face from the past. Jennifer led her through a maze of open workspaces and glass-walled conference rooms. The position is for executive coordinator to our CEO. It requires someone organized, adaptable, and capable of handling confidential matters with discretion. Rachel nodded, mentally reviewing her qualifications. She had worked 2 years as an administrative assistant before Owen was born, and despite the gap in her resume, she knew she could excel at this job. She needed to excel at this job. They stopped outside a corner office with a stunning view of the Golden Gate Bridge. Through the glass walls, Rachel could see a man standing with his back to them, phone pressed to his ear, gesturing as he spoke. Something about his posture struck her as familiar. Mr. Harrison will be with you in just a moment, Jennifer said, gesturing to a chair outside the office. Can I get you some water or coffee? Water would be great, thank you. As Jennifer walked away, the man in the office turned around, and Rachel felt her entire world tilt on its axis. Blake Harrison. The same Blake who had been her everything during her final semester of college. The same Blake who had promised to call her back after their last conversation and then vanished without a trace. The same Blake who had no idea he was a father. When past meets present. Blake ended his call and looked up, his eyes meeting Rachel's through the glass. The shock on his face mirrored her own. For a frozen moment, they simply stared at each other across the invisible barrier. Then Blake moved, opening his office door with a hand that Rachel noticed was trembling slightly. Rachel. Her name came out like a question, as if he couldn't quite believe she was real. Blake. She forced herself to stand, to maintain composure even as her heart hammered against her ribs. I didn't realize you were the CEO. His laugh was hollow. Harrison Technologies. I guess the name should have tipped you off. He ran a hand through his dark hair, a gesture she remembered all too well from late-night study sessions that had turned into something more. Please, come in. Rachel followed him into the office, acutely aware of Jennifer returning with her water. The HR manager's curious glance didn't escape her notice. Thank you, Jennifer. I'll take it from here, Blake said, his professional mask slipping back into place. When the door closed behind them, the silence felt suffocating. Blake gestured to a chair across from his desk, and Rachel sat, placing her portfolio in front of her like a shield. The weight of unspoken words. So, Blake began, settling into his own chair but looking anything but comfortable. You're applying for the executive coordinator position. Yes. As you can see from my resume, I have experience in administrative roles and excellent organizational skills. Rachel heard herself falling into interview mode, desperate for the safety of professionalism. Blake picked up her resume, but she could tell he wasn't really reading it. There's a gap here. From about 18 months ago until 3 months ago. Rachel's throat tightened. Personal circumstances. I had to take time to handle family matters. Family matters. Blake set down the resume, his green eyes searching her face. Rachel, what happened? After that night, I tried calling you for weeks. Your roommate said you wanted nothing to do with me, that you had moved on with someone else. The revelation hit Rachel like a physical blow. What? Kirsten told you that? Your roommate, the one with the pink hair. She answered when I came by your apartment. Said you were out with some guy from your marketing class and that I should stop bothering you. Rachel felt the room spin. Kirsten had always been jealous of her relationship with Blake, had made snide comments about him being too good for her. But to lie like that, to sabotage everything? Blake, I called you that same night. I told you I needed to see you, that we needed to talk about something important. Her voice cracked despite her best efforts to remain composed. You said you'd call me the next day. You never did. I tried reaching you for a month, and then your number was disconnected. The truth comes to light. Blake stood abruptly, pacing to the window. I got a new phone. The company was expanding, and I needed a business line. I assumed after what Kirsten told me that you didn't want to hear from me anyway. He turned back to face her. What did you need to talk to me about that night? This was it. The moment Rachel had imagined 1,000 times, though never like this, never in a sterile office with the ghosts of their past hanging between them. I was pregnant, Blake. The color drained from his face. Was? I have a son. Owen. He's 10 months old. Rachel's hands were shaking now, and she clasped them together in her lap. He has your eyes, your smile, your stubborn streak according to my mother. Blake sank back into his chair, looking like someone had knocked the wind from him. I have a son, he repeated, the words seeming foreign in his mouth. You've been raising him alone this whole time? I didn't have much choice. I thought you knew and didn't care. I thought you abandoned us. No. The word came out fierce, almost angry. No, Rachel, I would never have done that. If I had known, I would have been there. For every appointment, every ultrasound, every midnight feeding. His voice broke. I've missed 10 months of my son's life because of a misunderstanding and a vindictive roommate. Navigating new territory. The silence that followed was different from before, heavy with shared grief for lost time rather than awkward tension. Rachel found herself studying Blake's face, seeing the boy she had fallen for beneath the successful CEO exterior. He looked older, more careworn, but there was something in his eyes that spoke of the same kindness she remembered. Mr. Harrison, Jennifer's voice crackled through the intercom. Your 2 o'clock is here. Blake pressed the button. Reschedule it. Reschedule everything for the rest of the day. He released the button and looked at Rachel. We need to talk, really talk, about everything. But first, I need to know, are you okay? Have you been managing? Financially, I mean, and with childcare? The concern in his voice was genuine, and Rachel felt her defensive walls cracking. We're managing. Barely. That's why I'm here, actually. I need this job, Blake. I need the salary and the benefits. Owen needs healthcare, and my student loans are drowning me. The job is yours, Blake said immediately. But not because of Owen, or our past. It's yours because you're qualified and because from what I remember, you're incredibly capable. He paused. However, I think we both know that working together will be complicated. I can keep things professional, Rachel assured him, though she wasn't sure if she was trying to convince him or herself. Can we, though? Blake stood again, this time moving around the desk to lean against it, closer to her. Rachel, I have a son. Our son. I want to meet him, to be part of his life. How do we navigate that while maintaining a professional relationship here? Rachel stood too, needing to feel less at a disadvantage. One step at a time, I suppose. First, we establish work boundaries. You're my boss, I'm your employee. We keep things appropriate during office hours. And after hours? Blake asked quietly. After hours, we figure out how to co-parent a baby you've never met. Rachel took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision she was about to make. If you want to meet Owen, I mean. If you're serious about being involved. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Blake's intensity reminded Rachel of why she had fallen for him in the first place. When can I meet him? The question hung in the air between them, representing a bridge between their past and an uncertain future. Rachel thought of Owen, of his toothless grin and the way he lit up when he saw her face. Did she have the right to keep him from his father, especially now that she knew the truth about what had separated them? Tonight, she heard herself say. Come to my apartment tonight at 6. He's usually in a good mood after his dinner. Blake's smile was tentative but genuine. I'll be there. He returned to his desk, pulling out a business card and writing on the back. Here's my personal number. The real one, that I'll actually answer. As Rachel took the card, their fingers brushed, sending a jolt of recognition through her. Whatever had existed between them before might be buried under hurt and misunderstanding, but it wasn't dead. That much was clear. I should go, Rachel said, tucking the card into her purse. I need to prepare Owen's babysitter for this evening and figure out what on earth I'm going to tell you about the last 10 months. Rachel, Blake called as she reached the door. I'm sorry. For everything you went through alone, for not being there when you needed me most. I can't change the past, but I promise you, I'll do everything I can to be the father Owen deserves and the partner you need. Partner. The word settled over Rachel like a blanket, equal parts comforting and terrifying. They weren't partners, not really, not yet. They were two people who had created a life together and then been torn apart by circumstances and lies. Whether they could build something new from those fractured pieces remained to be seen. Meeting his son. Rachel paced her small apartment, glancing at the clock for the 100th time. 5:58. Blake would arrive any minute, and despite having spent the entire afternoon preparing for this moment, she felt completely unprepared. Owen sat in his playpen, babbling happily at his favorite stuffed elephant, blissfully unaware that his world was about to expand to include a father. Grace Park, Rachel's best friend since high school, emerged from the kitchen with 2 cups of tea. You need to breathe, Rach. You're going to pass out before he even gets here. What if Owen doesn't like him? What if Blake takes one look at actual fatherhood and runs? Rachel accepted the tea with trembling hands. Then he's an idiot, and we'll handle it like we've handled everything else. Grace squeezed her shoulder. But from what you told me about your conversation, he seems genuinely interested in being involved. The doorbell rang, and Rachel's heart leaped into her throat. She handed her tea back to Grace and moved to answer it, pausing with her hand on the doorknob. This was it. The moment that would change everything. Blake stood in the hallway, and Rachel almost didn't recognize him. Gone was the polished CEO in the expensive suit. Instead, he wore jeans and a simple button-down shirt, holding a large bag that appeared to be full of baby supplies and toys. His expression was a mixture of excitement and terror that probably mirrored her own. Hi, he said softly. I wasn't sure what to bring, so I kind of went overboard at the baby store. Rachel stepped aside to let him in. You didn't have to bring anything. I wanted to. Blake entered the apartment, his eyes immediately finding Owen in the playpen. He froze, and Rachel watched as emotion washed over his face. That's him. That's our son. The first connection. Owen looked up at the new voice, his bright green eyes so like his father's studying the stranger with curiosity. For a moment, neither Blake nor the baby moved. Then Owen smiled, one of his big, gummy grins that made Rachel's heart melt every single time, and held up his stuffed elephant as if showing it off. He's beautiful, Blake whispered, his voice thick with emotion. He's absolutely perfect. His name is Owen Blake Monroe, Rachel said quietly. I gave him your name as his middle name, even though I thought you didn't want us. Blake turned to her, and she saw tears gleaming in his eyes. "Can I hold him?" Rachel nodded, moving to the playpen and lifting Owen out. He was in one of his good moods, alert and happy after his nap. "Owen, sweetheart, there's someone I want you to meet. This is your daddy." She placed Owen in Blake's arms, showing him how to support the baby's head and back. Blake held his son like he was made of glass, staring down at him with wonder. Owen, for his part, seemed fascinated by this new person, reaching up to grab at Blake's shirt collar. "Hey there, Owen," Blake said softly. "I'm your dad. I'm sorry it took me so long to meet you, but I promise I'm here now." Grace caught Rachel's eye from across the room and mouthed, "I'm leaving," pointing to the door. Rachel nodded gratefully. This was a moment for the three of them, not a crowd. Learning to be a father. Over the next hour, Blake proved himself to be a quick learner. Rachel showed him how Owen liked to be held, how to interpret his different cries, and how to play the peekaboo game that never failed to make the baby laugh. Blake absorbed every piece of information like his life depended on it, asking questions and taking mental notes. "He's going to need a bath soon," Rachel said, checking the time. "That's usually my least favorite part of the day because he splashes everything." "Can I help?" Blake asked immediately. "I want to learn his whole routine." They moved to the bathroom, where Rachel had a small baby tub set up. As she ran the water and tested the temperature, Blake unbuttoned Owen's tiny outfit with fumbling fingers. The simple act of undressing his son seemed to overwhelm him with emotion. "I should have been here for this from the beginning," he said quietly as Rachel gently placed Owen in the water. His first bath, his first smile, all of it. "You're here now," Rachel replied, her own emotions threatening to spill over. "That's what matters to Owen. Babies live in the present." Blake helped wash Owen's hair, laughing when the baby squealed with delight at the water trickling over his head. It was such a domestic scene, so normal and yet so extraordinary. For the first time since Owen was born, Rachel felt like she wasn't carrying the weight of parenthood entirely alone. Professional complications. Later, after Owen was asleep in his crib, Rachel and Blake sat in her small living room with fresh cups of coffee. The ease they had found while caring for Owen dissipated somewhat, replaced by the awkward awareness of all the unresolved issues between them. "We need to talk about work," Rachel began, tucking her legs under her on the couch. "About how this is going to function." Blake nodded, setting his coffee on the side table. "Jennifer is going to need to know about our situation. She's discreet, and as HR manager, she should be aware of any potential conflicts of interest." "Will it affect my job?" Rachel asked, unable to hide her concern. "I need this position, Blake. I can't afford to lose it because of our personal situation." "You won't lose it," Blake assured her firmly. "You earned that job on your own merits. But we should be transparent about our relationship to avoid any appearance of impropriety." He paused. "I've been thinking, and I want to help financially. With Owen's expenses, your bills, everything." Rachel stiffened. "I don't want your charity. It's not charity. He's my son. I should have been contributing all along." Blake leaned forward, his expression earnest. "Rachel, let me do this. Let me take care of my responsibilities. We can discuss child support arrangements through proper channels," Rachel conceded carefully. "But I won't have you thinking you can just throw money at the situation and call yourself a father. Owen needs more than that." "I know." Blake's voice was quiet but determined. "I want to be here, really here. I want to learn everything about him, be there for the milestones I've already missed. I want him to know me, not just know of me." Revealing the truth at work. The next morning, Rachel arrived at Harrison Technologies with a mixture of anticipation and dread. She had agreed to meet with Blake and Jennifer before the official start of the workday to discuss their situation. Jennifer greeted them in the conference room with a professional smile that didn't quite hide her curiosity. "So, what's this meeting about? Blake was rather cryptic when he scheduled it. Blake gestured for Rachel to sit, then took the chair beside her rather than at the head of the table. Jennifer, there's something we need to disclose. Rachel and I have a personal history, and more importantly, we have a 10-month-old son together. To her credit, Jennifer's expression barely flickered with surprise. I see. And you're both committed to maintaining professionalism in the workplace despite this relationship? We're not in a relationship, Rachel clarified quickly. We're co-parents who are still figuring out what that means. But yes, we're both committed to keeping our professional and personal lives separate. Jennifer made notes on her tablet. For transparency, I'll need to document this. Rachel, you should know that while nepotism isn't against company policy, any promotions or special treatment you receive will be scrutinized more carefully to ensure fairness. I understand, Rachel replied. I don't expect any special treatment. Actually, Blake interjected, I think Rachel should report to Nathan Brooks instead of directly to me. He's my business partner and co-founder. It would provide an additional layer of separation between our professional relationship. Jennifer nodded approvingly. That's a good solution. I'll arrange for Nathan to be Rachel's direct supervisor, though she'll still be providing executive coordination for both of you. She looked between them with something that might have been sympathy. For what it's worth, I think you're both handling a complicated situation with admirable maturity. Building trust. Over the following weeks, a new routine emerged. Rachel worked during the day, proving herself capable and efficient in her role. Nathan Brooks turned out to be an excellent supervisor, friendly and supportive without being overbearing. Blake maintained professional distance during office hours, though Rachel sometimes caught him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Evenings belonged to Owen. Blake came over after work almost every day, learning the intricacies of fatherhood with determination that impressed Rachel despite herself. He was there for the difficult moments too, the teething pain that made Owen inconsolable, the nights when the baby woke up every 2 hours, the endless cycle of feeding and changing and soothing. You don't have to come over every single day, Rachel told him one evening as they folded tiny clothes together after Owen had finally fallen asleep. I know you have a company to run. I've missed 10 months, Blake replied simply. I'm not missing any more time than I have to. Grace, who had become an unexpected ally in the situation, hosted a dinner party to introduce Blake to Rachel's inner circle. Rachel's college friends were skeptical at first, protective of her and Owen, but Blake won them over with his genuine interest in his son and his willingness to acknowledge his absence, even though it hadn't been entirely his fault. He's good with Owen, Grace observed one afternoon while watching Blake play with the baby on the floor of Rachel's apartment. And he looks at you like you're the sun and the moon. Rachel felt her cheeks heat. He does not. We're just co-parenting. Keep telling yourself that, Grace said with a knowing smile. Confronting the past. 3 weeks into their new arrangement, Blake brought up the subject Rachel had been avoiding. They were at his penthouse apartment, which he had insisted on showing her. It was spacious and modern, with a stunning view of the city, but what caught Rachel's attention was the nursery he had set up. I thought Owen could stay here sometimes, Blake explained, showing her the carefully decorated room with a crib, changing table, and shelves full of books and toys. When he's older, maybe overnight visits. Rachel ran her hand over the crib railing, emotion welling up inside her. You really are serious about this? I told you I was. Blake stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets. Rachel, we need to talk about what happened. About Kirsten and why she lied. Rachel had been dreading this conversation. I spoke to her last week, actually. Called her up and confronted her about what she told you. And? She admitted it. Said she was jealous, that she had feelings for you and thought if she could break us up, you might notice her instead. Rachel's laugh was bitter. She realized later that she was pregnant, about the same time she found out you had left for your new position. She said she felt guilty but didn't know how to fix what she'd done. Blake's jaw tightened. One person's jealousy cost us over a year together. Cost me 10 months of my son's life. I know. Rachel turned to face him. I've been angry about it too, but staying angry doesn't help Owen. We can't change what happened, Blake. We can only move forward. Is that what you want? Blake asked, moving closer. To just move forward as co-parents and nothing more? The question hung in the air between them, loaded with possibility and danger. Rachel thought about the past weeks, about how natural it had felt to have Blake in her life again, how right it seemed when the three of them were together. I don't know, she admitted honestly. Part of me wants to guard my heart, to protect myself and Owen from getting hurt again. But another part of me remembers why I fell for you in the first place. Blake closed the distance between them, his hand coming up to cup her cheek. I never stopped thinking about you, Rachel. Even when I thought you had moved on, even when I tried to forget, you were always there in the back of my mind. Blake, Rachel whispered, her resolve wavering. I'm not asking you to jump into anything, he said quickly. I know we need to rebuild trust, to figure out who we are now, not just who we were in college. But I need you to know that I'm not here just for Owen. I'm here for you too. Before Rachel could respond, Owen's cry echoed through the apartment via the baby monitor Blake had set up throughout the space. The moment broke, and they both moved automatically toward the sound, their parental instincts overriding everything else. A new understanding. As they stood together over Owen's crib, soothing him back to sleep, Rachel realized something important. They were already a family, whether they were romantically involved or not. The question wasn't whether they belonged together, it was how they wanted that togetherness to look. Take me to dinner, Rachel said suddenly as they walked back to the living room. A real date, not just co-parenting time. Let's see if we can be Rachel and Blake again, not just Owen's parents. Blake's smile was like sunrise breaking over the ocean. Saturday night? I'll arrange for a babysitter. Grace already volunteered, Rachel admitted with a small smile. She's been telling me for weeks that I need to give you a real chance. Remind me to thank Grace, Blake said, pulling Rachel into a gentle hug. I won't let you down this time. I promise. As Rachel relaxed into his embrace, breathing in his familiar scent, she allowed herself to hope. The past had been complicated and painful, but maybe, just maybe, their future could be something beautiful, the date that changed everything. Saturday evening arrived with Rachel's nerves at an all-time high. She stood in front of her closet, surveying the limited options with growing frustration. Grace sat on the bed, Owen in her lap, offering commentary on each outfit Rachel tried on. The blue dress, Grace insisted. It brings out your eyes, and Blake won't be able to think straight. I'm not trying to make him lose his ability to think, Rachel protested, though she pulled the dress out anyway. This is about seeing if we can connect as adults, not just as Owen's parents. Right, because people go on dates to have intellectual conversations and nothing else, Grace said with obvious sarcasm. Owen giggled as if he understood the joke, reaching for Grace's dangling earring. Rachel changed into the blue dress and had to admit Grace was right. It fit her perfectly, highlighting the curves she had worried she'd never get back after pregnancy. She applied minimal makeup, keeping her look natural, and left her dark hair down in loose waves. You look beautiful, Grace said warmly when Rachel emerged. Now go knock his socks off and remember, Owen and I have big plans involving mashed bananas and that new children's show everyone's been talking about. Blake arrived promptly at 7, and Rachel's breath caught when she opened the door. He wore dark slacks and a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, looking effortlessly handsome. His eyes widened when he saw her, and the appreciation in his gaze made her stomach flutter. You're stunning, he said simply, then peeked around her to see Owen. Hey, buddy. Be good for Auntie Grace, okay? Owen responded with an enthusiastic babble and a wave, which Blake returned before offering his arm to Rachel. Shall we? Rediscovering each other. Blake had chosen a small Italian restaurant in North Beach, intimate and cozy with checkered tablecloths and candles flickering on every table. It was perfect, romantic without being overwhelming, the kind of place where they could actually talk without shouting over noise. "I thought about taking you somewhere fancy," Blake admitted after they ordered. "But then I remembered you always preferred places with character over places with price tags." Rachel smiled, touched that he remembered. "This is perfect. Though I have to admit, it feels strange being out without Owen. I keep expecting to hear him crying or needing something." "Grace has my number and yours on speed dial," Blake assured her. "But tonight is about us, remember? Not about being parents, just about being two people getting to know each other again." They started with safe topics, work and mutual friends, updates on Blake's business expansion and Rachel's progress in finishing her degree online. But as the wine flowed and their appetizers arrived, the conversation deepened. "Tell me about the day Owen was born," Blake requested softly. "I want to know everything, even though it kills me that I wasn't there." Rachel took a sip of wine, gathering her thoughts. "It was January 15th, 3 in the morning when my water broke. Grace drove me to the hospital because my parents couldn't get there from Sacramento in time. I was terrified, Blake. Not just of the pain or the labor, but of doing it all alone." Blake reached across the table, taking her hand. "I'm so sorry." "Labor lasted 14 hours, Rachel continued, her voice steady despite the emotion. "When they finally placed Owen in my arms, all that fear disappeared. He was so tiny, so perfect. He had a full head of dark hair and these huge eyes that looked right at me like he knew exactly who I was. I wish I could have seen that," Blake said, his voice rough with emotion. "I took so many pictures and videos," Rachel told him. "I'll show you all of them. And Blake, there will be other moments. First steps, first words, first day of school. You'll be there for all of that." Blake squeezed her hand. "Thank you for giving me this chance, Rachel. For not shutting me out when you had every right to. Opening up." As their main courses arrived, Rachel found herself sharing things she had kept locked away. The loneliness of those first months, the struggle to balance her love for Owen with her grief over everything she had given up. Her dreams of finishing college, of having a career, of proving she was more than just a young single mother. "That's why the job at Harrison Technologies means so much," she explained. "It's not just about the money, though that's important. It's about having an identity beyond being Owen's mom. I love him more than anything, but I need to be Rachel too." "You're incredible, you know that?" Blake said, his admiration clear. "Most people would have given up or taken the easy way out. You kept fighting." "I didn't have a choice," Rachel replied with a slight smile. "Owen was counting on me." Blake set down his fork, his expression turning serious. "Rachel, I need to tell you something. About why I left San Francisco after what happened with Kirsten." Rachel tensed slightly but nodded for him to continue. "When I thought you had moved on, it destroyed me," Blake admitted. "I threw myself into work, accepted a position opening our satellite office in Seattle because I couldn't stand being in the city where everything reminded me of you. I dated other people, tried to convince myself I was over you." "Were you?" Rachel asked quietly. "Over me? Never," Blake said firmly. "Every woman I met, I compared to you. Every relationship felt hollow because they weren't you. When my partner Nathan convinced me to return to San Francisco to focus on expanding the company, I thought maybe enough time had passed that I could handle being here again. And then you walked into my office for that interview." "The universe has a twisted sense of humor," Rachel observed. "Or maybe it was giving us a second chance," Blake countered. "Everything that happened, as painful as it was, led us to where we are now. I'm not the same person I was in college, Rachel. I've grown up, learned what really matters. And what matters is family, is being there for the people you love. Professional success. The following weeks brought new developments on multiple fronts. At work, Rachel's natural talents were becoming increasingly apparent. She had a gift for organization and people management that went beyond basic administrative skills. When Harrison Technologies landed a major contract with an international tech firm, Blake and Nathan asked Rachel to coordinate the entire implementation process. "This is a huge responsibility," Nathan told her during a planning meeting. "You'll be managing multiple teams, juggling different time zones, keeping everyone on schedule and on budget. Think you can handle it?" Rachel's confidence had grown exponentially since she started. "I can handle it." And she did. Over the next month, Rachel proved herself to be not just capable but exceptional. She anticipated problems before they arose, mediated disputes between departments, and kept the project running smoothly despite numerous obstacles. Her colleagues began coming to her for advice, and even senior managers sought her input on strategic decisions. "You should consider getting your MBA," Blake suggested one evening while they watched Owen practice his crawling. "The company has an education assistance program. We'd cover tuition for any degree related to your work." Rachel looked at him suspiciously. "Is this special treatment because of our relationship?" "It's smart business," Blake countered. "You have natural leadership abilities, Rachel. With the right education and experience, you could be running your own division in a few years. That benefits the company as much as it benefits you." The idea planted itself in Rachel's mind, taking root and growing. She had always dreamed of more than just being an assistant, but had resigned herself to practical limitations. Now, with Blake's support and the company's resources, those dreams seemed achievable. Family moments. Owen's first birthday approached rapidly, and planning the celebration became a joint effort that brought Rachel and Blake even closer. They spent evenings discussing themes and guest lists, debating the merits of various cake designs, and laughing at their own absurd level of involvement in planning a party for a one-year-old who wouldn't remember it. "We're those parents," Rachel said with mock horror as Blake showed her his fourth possible decoration scheme. "The ones who go completely overboard." "We have a year of birthdays to make up for," Blake replied unapologetically. "This is going to be the best first birthday party in the history of first birthday parties." The party itself, held at Blake's penthouse with its spacious living room and terrace, was a joyful chaos of friends, family, and more balloons than seemed physically possible. Owen, overwhelmed by all the attention, alternated between delighted laughter and confused tears. Rachel's parents made the trip from Sacramento, and their meeting with Blake was initially tense. Rachel's father, a no-nonsense contractor, looked Blake up and down with obvious skepticism. "So you're the young man who got my daughter pregnant and disappeared," he said bluntly. "Dad!" Rachel protested, mortified. But Blake stood his ground. "Sir, I understand your anger, and I deserve it. I wasn't there when Rachel needed me, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life. All I can do is promise that I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." Rachel's father studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Actions speak louder than words, son. You want my respect, you earn it by taking care of my daughter and grandson." "I intend to do exactly that," Blake replied firmly. By the end of the party, Rachel's parents had warmed considerably to Blake, especially after watching him change Owen's diaper without hesitation and clean up the spectacular mess of smashed birthday cake. Her mother pulled Rachel aside in the kitchen. "He's good with Owen," she observed. "And he looks at you like you hung the moon." "Mom," Rachel protested weakly. "I'm just saying, don't let pride or past hurt keep you from being happy," her mother advised. "That man loves you, Rachel. Anyone with eyes can see it." Taking the leap. That night, after all the guests had left and Owen was asleep in his new big boy bed at Blake's place, Rachel and Blake stood on the terrace watching the city lights below. "Thank you for today," Rachel said softly. "For making Owen's first birthday so special." "Thank you for letting me be part of it," Blake replied. "For giving me the chance to be his father." Rachel turned to face him, her heart pounding. Over the past months, her feelings for Blake had evolved from tentative forgiveness to genuine affection to something deeper, something that terrified and exhilarated her in equal measure. "Blake, I need to tell you something." He turned to her, his expression attentive. "What is it?" "I'm falling in love with you again," she admitted, the words tumbling out in a rush. "Or maybe I never stopped loving you, I don't know. All I know is that when I'm with you, I feel complete in a way I haven't felt since college. You're not just Owen's father. You're my partner, my best friend, and I want to see where this could go." Blake's smile was radiant. He cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs gently stroking her cheeks. "Rachel, I've been in love with you since the day we met. Every moment we've spent together these past months has only made me more certain that you're the one for me. You and Owen, you're my family, my future, everything I didn't know I was missing." When he kissed her, it felt like coming home. All the hurt and separation melted away, leaving only the certainty that they were meant to be together, building their future. 6 months later, Rachel stood in the spacious living room of the house they had just bought together in Pacific Heights. It was a beautiful Victorian with enough space for Owen to run around, a home office for her MBA studies, and a yard perfect for the dog Blake kept insisting they needed. "I can't believe this is ours," she said as Blake wrapped his arms around her from behind. "Believe it," he murmured against her hair. "This is just the beginning, Rachel." She turned in his arms, looking up at the man who had transformed from the ghost of her past into the architect of her future. "I love you, Blake Harrison." "I love you too, Rachel Monroe," he replied. "Soon to be Rachel Harrison, if you'll have me." He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, and Rachel's breath caught. Inside was a stunning but tasteful diamond ring, perfect in its simplicity. "I know we're doing everything backward," Blake said with a smile. "We had a baby before we got together, bought a house before we got engaged. But I want to spend the rest of my life with you, Rachel. Will you marry me?" Through happy tears, Rachel nodded. "Yes. Absolutely yes." From the nursery down the hall, Owen's babbling came through the baby monitor, as if he was offering his own approval. Rachel laughed, wiping her eyes. "We should go check on him," she said. "In a minute," Blake replied, kissing her again. "Let me savor this moment first." As they stood together in their new home, Rachel reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them here. From a chance interview to a shocking revelation, from painful separation to joyful reunion, they had weathered every storm and emerged stronger for it. Life hadn't been easy, and she knew challenges still lay ahead. But with Blake by her side and Owen sleeping peacefully down the hall, Rachel had everything she needed. Love, family, and hope for a future brighter than anything she had imagined in those dark days when she faced motherhood alone. The story that began with abandonment had transformed into one of redemption, forgiveness, and second chances. And as Blake pulled her close, Rachel knew with absolute certainty that their greatest adventures were still to come. Epilogue, 5 years later. Rachel Harrison stood at the podium of the convention center, looking out at the audience of 500 women entrepreneurs. At 29, she was the youngest keynote speaker at the conference, but her credentials spoke for themselves. MBA from Stanford, VP of Strategic Development at Harrison Technologies, and founder of a nonprofit supporting single mothers in pursuing higher education. 5 years ago, I was a single mother living paycheck to paycheck, she told the audience. I thought my dreams were over, that I had to choose between being a mother and having a career. But I learned that we don't have to choose. With the right support system, with determination and resilience, we can have both. From the front row, Blake watched his wife with undisguised pride. Owen, now almost 6 years old, sat beside him, coloring in a book but occasionally looking up to wave at his mother. Next to Owen, in a carrier, their 6-month-old daughter Emma slept peacefully. After Rachel's speech, as admirers crowded around her with questions and congratulations, Blake waited patiently with the children. When she finally made her way to them, Owen jumped up excitedly. "Mommy, you were so good." Everyone was clapping. Rachel scooped him up despite his growing size, kissing his cheek. "Thank you, sweetheart. Were you good for Daddy?" "He was perfect," Blake assured her, standing to kiss her. "You were amazing up there. I'm so proud of you." "We make a good team," Rachel replied, smiling at her family. And they did. Their journey from that awkward interview to this moment had been filled with challenges and triumphs, tears and laughter, but through it all, they had built something real and lasting. Love had brought them together. Misunderstanding had torn them apart. But determination, forgiveness, and faith in second chances had built them a future more beautiful than either had dreamed possible. As they walked out of the convention center together, Owen holding Blake's hand and Rachel carrying Emma, they looked like what they were, a family who had fought for their happiness and won.